Before we begin today's interview with Ricardo Frechou, a quick word about our sponsor, PropTex. PropTex helps real estate websites with things like interactive property staging, real-time renovation estimates, neighborhood analytics, and in-listing furniture shopping. If that sounds good, if that sounds interesting to you, go to proptex.com. That's with 2 X's, or you can look the guys up on LinkedIn and, well, obviously say that we sent you. And now on to the interview. Joined today by Simon Baker. How are you, Simon?
I am doing exceedingly well, about to head over to your part of the world in a few hours.
Cool. And we're also joined by the man I like to call the nicest person in the industry. Joining us from Uruguay, Ricardo Frechou. How are you doing?
Thanks for the invitation. Huge fan of the podcast.
There you go. Already he's the nicest. Yeah. So I'm going to give a quick intro to Ricardo for those who don't know him. Ricardo is the CEO of 360 Latam. Now, what is 360 Latam? It's not necessarily a brand that everybody's familiar with. 360 Latam is one of 3, we'll call them umbrella companies for the Malaysian headquartered, Australian listed real estate marketplace operator, Frontier Digital Ventures. I guess before you were CEO of 360 Latam, you were the founder, one of the founders of Infocasas, which is the market-leading real estate portal in Uruguay, also Paraguay, and you also operate in some other countries. But 360 Latam is the operator of several brands that people might be more familiar with. Can you give us some examples of brands under 360 Latam?
Yes. Finca Raíz in Colombia, it's a brand that's been 35 years old in the industry. Yapo in Chile and E24 in Central America.
Yeah. So these are, some pretty big, actually market-leading companies in Latin America. Now, we wanted to get you on for two different reasons. Firstly, we kind of realized we haven't had too many people from Latin America on. We want to talk about the Latin American market. But there's another reason that we wanted to get you on. I think yesterday or the day before, I covered Frontier Digital Ventures Q4 filings to the market. And there were some interesting things in there. And I thought that's perfect. We've got Ricardo coming on and he can tell me all about what's been happening with Frontier Digital Ventures. We're going to start. I have in front of me 2 sets of questions. One set of questions is called easy questions and the other difficult questions. Now, we'll start with the difficult questions. The most difficult question. First question, Ricardo. In FDV's latest reporting, 360 Latam, so you're part of the company, so 3 different parts. There's Middle East and North Africa, there's Asia, and there's 360 Latam. Now, 360 Latam, up until now, whenever I read the reporting, it's always the kind of teacher's pet. It always does really well compared to the other 2. This time, not so much. In Q4, there was a 52% revenue drop. What's up with that? What's going on?
Nice to start like this, the podcast. Nah, don't worry. So we got to put a little bit of context. First of all, as you mentioned, 360 Latam is now working as a one umbrella also for the companies you mentioned all around this markets. Before, 2 years ago, they were working totally independently. So each one had a CEO, a COO, a CFO, So the idea was to consolidate all these entities under one brand, 360 Latam, and work together, try to, help each other and all try to get a bigger market, learn all the expertise, share, and other things. So we started 2 years ago. When we started, Latam was more or less 35% of the revenue of FTV. And now we are somewhere around 70% of the revenue of FTV. So we had a huge growth there. Some of the companies were from Adevinta that were purchased from FTV. They come with another philosophy, with another culture. They got a lot of resources. They were EBITDA negative. They were cash flow negative. So one of the first things was a restructure. At the beginning, we were 660 employees. Now we are somewhere around 380 employees. All the companies are cash flow positive and EBITDA positive. So that was a game changer that we wanna do in these 2 years, and with a target of achieving $100 million consolidated and going to NASDAQ. one of the things that happen is when you talk about transactions or getting closer to transactions in portals, there are a lot of things coming around. First of all is the business model, and then also is if you come from a portal or you are a standalone company, that like a lot of projects were in Latam in the last couple of years. I just want to clarify this because it's really important. The decision about this revenue decrease is something that we already knew and we targeted. Why? Because we had a business model in transactions that we were profitable and we were cash flow negative. Why? Because when you do the transaction, you spend the marketing today and you collect the commission on a 6 month, 8 month, 9 month in the future. And that's the way the industry works. You cannot go to a developer and say, pay me now the commission. It is what it is. And these are huge clients. They are big players on the industry, and they are not going to change that because they pay you the commission when the paperwork is done. So what was the issue with our business model is that we need capital. We were profitable. And I think that's really interesting to comment because if you see other projects, for example, some in Colombia or even Brazil, that they raised millions and millions of US dollars. They were not portals, they were just projects. They burned everything and they disappeared. And I'm talking some of the companies that raised $200 million. So we never raised money. Infocasas never raised money. And that's maybe another topic for discussion. But it was a business model that we went step by step going from a portal to a transactional business model. Why I tell you this? Because it was a decision that we didn't want to raise capital for this transaction business model. We want to find a way where we could generate, a business where we could be cash flow positive. And we didn't have this issue about capital intensive on transactions. So we tried to change the model to something like more of a brokerage where instead of us spending the marketing, a third player spend the marketing and we could share the commission. I tell you this, why Edmund? Because if we want to go to the transactions as we had first semester of last year, it's just putting money and you get back to those transactions. It's something that you raise the money, you have the cash flow for being cash flow negative, being profitable or EBITDA profit. You just put it in, spend the marketing, get the leads, watch the leads, send them to builders, collect the commission in a 6 month in the future. So one of the things that happened is in August, our best market for transactions was Uruguay. There was elections and there was a referendum. And we usually know that when that times happens, primary market is like a commodity. It usually is between 5 to 15% of the property sold in Latam, nothing like China that maybe go to a 50%. So it's between 5 and 15%, and it's like a commodity. When the economy is growing stable, you sell. So we wanted to target this time to question about the transactions being, this capital intensive. So we were pushing a new business model called Iris, where basically instead of thinking about transactions like the way where you cut off agents, like usually all the projects around Latam wanted to do, is think around transactions where you take the brokers, you take the agents, and you go to get that commission. We said, why don't we build a pro-agent product? And when you see the last maybe 10 years of history in Latam, there were no good pro-agent products, And we said, instead of taking them out, why don't we work with them? Why don't we create a process between builders and agents or brokers? We get in the middle, we build a product around there, and we try to control the primary market transactions. Why? Because usually builders work with 5 brokers, 3, 4, 5, that's it. And there are thousands of brokers in the industry. And those thousands of brokers don't get access to the primary market. And we said, okay, continue working with this 3, 4, 5 brokers, but let us handle all these thousands of brokers. And what we do is we create a layer between the developer and the broker, where we have all the information in real time, everything. So at one moment you said, instead of going against the brokers, you're going in favor with the brokers. And that's when we launched Iris. And Iris is a product that is scaling like crazy. Why? Because agents love it. Because now they have access to the primary market. That's a game changer.
Okay, let's move on. So again, we'll go back to the bad questions. We'll come back to Iris and we'll come back to the other product, which is the transactional product, Centrify, right? But I'm also interested in, so 360 Latam is currently undergoing a strategic review with, I guess, the idea for FDV to sell off 360 Latam. Now, explain that to me. If I'm a shareholder, why would I want to see 360 Latam, which is the most consistently profitable part of the business, sold off?
This is a really hard question. I don't have a clear answer because maybe I can agree with you. At the end of the day, this is around decisions that maybe they are taking somewhere else and not on Latam. So what I mean is this was a strategic decision that didn't came from 360 Latam. We are working on a 5 to 10 year plan where we want to build a really strong leadership company, a leader company. And there was this decision taking someone else, from the board, that they believed that it was the best moment to do a strategic review. What I can tell you is shareholders doesn't seem to like that, the share price decrease. Part can be what you mentioned, because we have a decrease in the revenue, but also some of the shareholders don't believe that it's best time to sell an asset that is transforming its business model to something else, and maybe it's not the best time to do it. So now there are a lot of things here in the mixture that are going around that makes a lot of noise. For me, I believe that we are building something that when you see like products like Iris that scale, that they are plug and play, that we launched in Uruguay, suddenly in Chile, in Colombia, in Central America, and you're having traction, you're growing, you're having traction. That's what I'm working at, as I told you, we are a really big part of FDV. And also now I'm thinking out loud, and you have a lot of experience. Obviously you, Simon, and you, Edmund, have a lot of information. I try to think who can purchase now the asset, and why would they purchase it now? Or it has to be a big opportunity around a decrease in the price, or I cannot imagine why they would purchase right now this asset.
So I've got a perspective from the outside. If you look at the market cap of FDV, which is sort of at it's currently at 100 million Australian dollars, or about 65 million US dollars. I think the real issue at play here is that 360 Latam could be worth actually more than the whole value of FDV. And what's happening is you've got a mismatch between where the real power is in the company, which is 360 Latam, that's the engine of the business. The listing, which is on the Australian Stock Exchange, you've got other assets in there in various markets, MENA and Southeast Asia, that contaminate the value that's been created by 360 Latam. And so the market's sitting there going, well, what are you? Who are you? This is all a bit confusing. It's not delivered on the promise of about a decade ago of what FDV could achieve, because these markets have not all these markets, or not all the bets placed in the markets have come to fruition. And so it's if I was sitting on the board, I'd go, well, what is that asset worth? And if I can go back to the market, say, well, we can sell this for 80 million, 100 million. Okay, I'll pick a number. Or even if we sold it for 60 million, you're better off putting the cash in your bank account and then working out what to do with the other assets than see on an asset that's worth 60 to 80 million, for argument's sake, and it's really being measured by the market as something lower. So it makes a lot of sense to do the initiative. I can understand why shareholders have been spooked in this whole process, which is, that plus, performance or the results have led to a sell-off in the business. Okay.
And Simon, I remember, and you were having a discussion with Edmund. I think it was, I don't remember this podcast, but we were discussing about valuation, multiples around revenue or EBITDA. If you see our last year revenue, so we finished, I'm talking about in US dollars, we finished somewhere around $35 million US. This is public information. So when you see the multiple, the market cap of the company, it's like revenue times 2 point something on all FDB portfolio,
Yeah.
So when you see that other companies are, and I understand that the markets, but you see multiples of the leader is somewhere around 12, 15, 16 times revenue, or a second player is somewhere around times 6, times 7, times 8 revenue. Suddenly you see that we are getting a market cap of revenue times 2. So maybe we are, there's something making noise on the line that people doesn't value us. And I agree with Simon today, maybe 360 Latam is worth more than all the market cap of the company. And that's also an issue because people say, well, I want to invest in Latam. I see, an opportunity here, but I don't want to get the noise, or I don't want to get the companies of other regions. So you are in the middle of this story. What I can tell you is that in our case, I think we are undervalued. I see the potential we have. There's a 650 million user market. I see how we are scaling with transactions. I see how we are scaling with some of the self-serve products. And actually, as you mentioned, Edmund, I'm founder of InfoCasas, one of these companies. And I stayed on the business. So I changed my cash for shares of FTB for staying in this because I see a massive opportunity, Sometimes see what happened with Navent, for example, what they tried to build, why they couldn't went to the US stock market. And you see that they never went with self-serve individuals. They've never went with transactions. They never had other products than just a pure classified. And in good countries or good markets, but then something happened in Mexico, something happened in Brazil, something happened in Argentina, and they were just having revenues from classified, and then they were not more attractive to the industry. So we're trying to build something different where if, you have the classifieds, you have the transactions, you have another business model that you help developers with the construction materials, you have products that are self-serve going purely on technology, So we try to diversify that if primary market has a contraction, you can have the revenue from other sources, That's what we are trying to build.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. I've got a good analogy of what's happening. If you looked at Lifel in Japan, where there's Lifel Connect business, Lifel Connect business is similar in many ways. Operations in Southeast Asia, Mexico, vertical search, they're everywhere. Since Lifel, the parent company, announced basically the exiting of the business, becoming very passive in the business and allowing the Fuzzwaz guys to run it, their share price is up 60%. Okay, from 130 odd, 140 yen to 195 yen. Just having a look. Okay, and that's added material value to the company. So what I think is at play here is that markets aren't stupid, but they're also not that sophisticated. And what I mean by that is the following: they're not dumb. They just won't believe anything that you tell them, but they aren't smart enough to go, wait a second, so you're a global classifieds business operating in frontier markets. In some markets, you've got transactions. So you got cars in other markets. You got general. So what are you again? And by the way, you've been around for 10 years. And, if we look at, the share price is down by, an enormous amount. Over that period of time. Actually, I don't have the numbers here. It would be useful to have the numbers in front of me. Yeah, your share price in the last 5 years is down like 80%. So if you sit there, keep doing what you're doing, it's the ultimate definition of insanity, right? Hoping that it'll be a different outcome. So I think the bet here is that the value, that the sum the sum of the parts is greater than the operating as a whole. So that's what's happening here.
Okay. It all sounds very stressful. Devaluing, changing your business model, changing the branding and everything. So we'll leave the hard questions and go back to some of the more easy questions. I wonder, Ricardo, so you have changed the business model recently. Can you just explain for everyone what the business model was before, why it was changed, and why you're so confident that it's going to work?
Okay. So first of all, we have a classified, that's pay per list, pay to list. That's the typical.
And it's not an individual listing basis, or is it a subscription, list all the listings you want, or is it individual listing basis?
Subscription, and some of the markets have individuals, that they let individuals pay per list, and that's it. So one of the things that we realized is that, obviously, regarding the pool of commissions, there's a massive opportunity, much bigger than advertising pool. That's why we try to get closer to transactions. This comes from Infocasas that we were based in Uruguay, a really small market. So you gotta be creative. You gotta try to find other ways of making money, because only on classifieds we had like 90% of the market share, and it's not a lot of money when you come from a really small market. And this is not like a vendor paying market like Australia, Sweden. There's no MLS, so it's super informal. So agents, they don't have the exclusivity, so they don't want to pay you a lot of money because they are not sure they're going to collect the commission. So all that makes you that you cannot be expensive on the classified side. So one of the things we said is let's try to build products that are supported by agents, supported by the industry, and let's try to grow with them. And that's why when we said, look, this Iris business model, I truly believe Iris by itself could be a spin-off, and it's worth more than all the classifieds combined. Why? When you see a product that gets a lot of approval and gets a lot of traction, then you start getting hyped. What I mean is, now you see we have like more than 10,000 agents on our platform, and we have hundreds and hundreds of buildings around Latam. And when you start thinking is, at the end of the day, if primary market is a commodity, why it's a commodity? Because you sell it on a blueprint. I'm not talking about luxuries products. I'm talking about the average primary market product, average builder, the 60, 80, 100 square meters, the average product. And you see that you sell it on a blueprint. And the price, it is what it is, construction materials, construction employees, you put it on an Excel, you got the price. And you said, look, what happens if I have 10,000 agents that could sell your products and also could sell it cross-border? Because when you access our platform, you have all the primary markets we are on, and even we have builders that are from countries that we don't have a company. And this is only for professionals, only for real estate agents. So now suddenly we have people from Colombia investing in properties in the Caribbean. For example, people purchasing properties in República Dominicana. It's a Caribbean country. Okay? We don't have offices there. We don't have a portal there. But we have the access to builders. We offer them the platform and say, look, it's a platform for free. You can list your building there for free. And they have agents all around the town that say, look, I have someone that wants to purchase. Super transparent. You have the commission, how much you're going to get paid, when you're going to get paid, all the conditions, all the information. That's why we say it's like an MLS product, because at the end of the day, it's up to date with information. And when you see that, Edmund, and we see that it's scaling, we are growing more than 100% per semester. You see that you do a plug and play on a country and it scales. We plug it in Chile. We are scaling like crazy. And at the end of the day, this Centrify business model is more or less the same. It's how we can help builders on the primary market access information and construction materials. It may sound naive, but it's super complicated to get information around construction materials because there's a lot of supply with different prices, with different conditions. And we said, let's create a layer between builders, Centrify, we call it, that is more or less the same as Iris, and then suppliers of construction materials.
So how do you make money? So let's get into the model a little bit. How are you making money? How are you making money from developers, and how are you making money from agents?
Okay. Regarding Iris, we only get paid by builders. We don't cut commission from agents. We want the agent to get 100% of the commission. We are giving a solution. There's a lot of pain in regarding working with brokers that builders are willing to pay 1.5%, or 2% above the commission when you give them the solution. Because instead of having phone calls, emails of hundreds of brokers, they just have everything with Centrify. So the builder, Iris. So the builder only talk with Iris, and the broker only talk with Iris. So they centralize all the communication with Iris, even the offer and the contracts, So they say, look, you are saving me a lot of time, you're saving me a lot of costs, you're saving me a lot of noise. Why? Because you had sometimes on portals, you have information of builders it's not the actual information. The prices are wrong, the units are wrong, and that generates a lot of noise for the builder. With Iris, you have the information, but you can only use it on your own webpage and networks, on your social networks. You cannot use that listing and put it on a portal, because if not, you will have thousands of same listings, It's just for your own channels. And that is super simple, but it gives a solution for builders. So they are willing to pay you more than the average commission. In the end game, we believe we can share. We are doing some tests. We can do a revenue share in the commission with the broker, because you are simplifying them a lot of the process. You're helping them with their customer. You're helping them to sell the primary market. So we believe there's room that we can do a revenue share with the broker. So that's how we monetize Iris.
Okay.
Centrify is exactly the same.
So what's the product called?
Iris is the MLS for primary market. The other one is called Centrify. So basically, it's the same philosophy. We are in the middle between builders and suppliers of construction materials.
Okay. So you got
construction materials. Exactly. Construction materials, some cases, they have like 50 up to 100% margin. It's incredible the margin they have. There's a lot of room to pay commissions. Now builders, with us, they centralize part of the purchasing construction materials. We start with the easy one, not the complicated ones. The ones that are on the market, and the same philosophy, super transparent with information. We will tell the builder when they're going to receive that construction material, how they have to pay that construction material, what's the price. We compare with the industry. So the same, we work with the average builder, not the ones that have luxury, or the ones that work with the government, the massive, the average that are the most in the industry, and we help them in this process. And you say, but doesn't the builder have access to that information? Yes, but there's so much information, and it's difficult to get it, that having all that in one place, you cannot imagine the game changer. And for example, Centrify, we plug it and play in Chile, and we did $1.5 million in GMV in less than a couple of months.
I'm thinking about this, Ricardo. I'm thinking about this from the point of view of somebody listening who works for a real estate portal in another country and thinking, okay, this sounds like a really good idea. How kind of interchangeable is it between markets? So I've heard you speak before about how, although you work in, 8, 10 different countries in Latin America, they're all very different, and you have to respect the nuances, right? And that's something that we talk about a lot. It sounds like these products have scaled very quickly, regardless of the nuances in these markets. So what are the characteristics of the markets that have made this a success? And could it scale somewhere else? Let's say, could it work in the Middle East and North Africa, where FDV also operates?
So first of all, this is based on a hypothesis that you have a portal. Why? Because you have the relationships. With a portal, you have the relationship with brokers, you have the relationship with builders. That's why I believe that some of the companies, the PropTech that raise a lot of money, they couldn't have traction because you have to build the relationship and it takes time and money. So when you have the classified, you have that relationship that comes from many, many years. So first of all, I think that the portal is the entry. You have the portal, you have the relationship. Now you can sell them different products. So if you have a portal, it doesn't have to be a leader. You have to have a portal, and you have to have an informal market. I believe that these tools like Iris work on informal markets. They already have MLS in USA. So I think if you have those two, at least on Latam, you can plug and play. That's what happened to us. We plug it and play in Chile. We plug it and play in Colombia. We plug it and play in Central America. And you say, oh, they are all speaking Spanish markets. Yeah. But the culture, the religion, the way they do business is totally different. It's far away. I truly believe you can do it on other markets like Africa or Asia. You have to have the conditions of having a portal, having those relationships with builders and brokers, and then having an informal market.
So are you talking to other FDV portfolio companies about how to do this? Or, are you aware of other people doing this kind of model anywhere else? Because it sounds great. Sounds like a real winner.
So this is also part of the way things are done. I work for 360 Latam. I try to help the other assets or the other businesses around Africa and Asia. So I have calls. I try to help them. I'm not in charge of those operations, and it's super difficult because there's other languages, there's other cultures, there's other religions. It's not so easy for me to plug and play in other markets. And also, trust me, or believe me, I don't have more time on the day.
I believe you.
The assets that we are running. It's a lot. So I would love to help because I believe that I would love that Pakistan recovers. It's for me, it's left pocket, right pocket. I would love Pakistan, as Samin went back to the transactions because that would push our share price. I would love Africa, discovered a way of doing business and plugging and playing these tools there. But there's a lot of things going around Latam. As I told you, we have a restructure regarding people. So we are working with a less amount of people in all the history of these companies. And we are trying to grow. And also now there's a lot of noise in the line because we changed we decided that we were going to push more Iris than the pure transaction cash flow negative business model. And there's, I have a lot of conversation with shareholders because you have to explain that, Edmond. People see, at the end of the day, people see the numbers you just mentioned and what's happening, everything's going wrong. No, wait a minute. There's a story at the back of this. There's a background that we decided to go. But sometimes that story doesn't depend on myself. It's someone else, that the spokesman of presenting the results. So there are a lot of things there. Answering your question, I would love to help them more. I don't have time.
Fair enough. Okay, I want to ask you. So it seems like what you're doing at the moment is in a bit of a state of flux, right? There's uncertainty about this strategic review. There's a change in the business model. What do you see in 5 years' time? What are you doing in 5 years' time? Now, the answer probably should be lying on a beach, having cashed out and, just having a nice time. But I don't think, you're a serial entrepreneur. What will you be doing in 5 years' time?
I would love to pursue this IPO objective we target. I truly believe that we could build not $100 million valuation company, 1 billion, I believe there's a massive opportunity in Latam. I think now there's a time for consolidation. I see a lot of companies that are like orphans. I think now if you are not big enough, you are out of the game. I see companies all around Latam that maybe they are leaders of their markets and they're only in that market. And now you have to, there's really expensive, I don't know. You want to add on any ad networks, much more expensive, Google, Facebook, there are a lot of things happening. So you need to join forces, I truly believe now it's that if you could merge all those companies with us, we could build something really, really big, I think there's a great opportunity. I would love to, in 5 years, continue with this project and trying to build something with the same shareholders, with different shareholders, but trying to build something around Latam or around portals. I believe that these new business units are there. And let me just say this message, because maybe some of the shareholders watch the podcast. I already cashed out the company. I did the exit, and Infocasas went really well. We sold it a little bit before COVID, so we were lucky. Sometimes you have to have luck. Then a lot of things happened. Nobody knew, but I think we sold on the best moment possible. I'm super grateful and I'm happy with that. So I already cashed out a lot of money. I'm really grateful, but I stayed here because I truly believe on the opportunity around 360 Latam. It's not about being on a beach, drinking coconut water. I think that we can build something really big here. Sometimes it depends on us, on the team. Sometimes it depends on if you have the support of other people. So I wish we could target the IPO.
It seems to me, Ricardo, what you're in the middle of, doing is really, you found a fork in the road, a road where you knew if you continued going down the transaction path, you're going to have this perpetual headache. And I speak to a lot of transaction businesses, and they all have the same problem. I've sold something today, I get paid tomorrow, and I've got to fund this working capital in between. And it becomes a big headache that just never goes away, because as you scale up, the headache just gets bigger. It's the same headache, it just gets bigger. And what you've done is you pivoted the business into saying, well, why, instead of me worrying about that, why don't I just shove myself in the middle? I've got less resources, so I don't have sales guys anymore. I don't have to feed them. The brokers, the home sellers, the builders love me, because now they don't have to deal with this market full of agents and brokers who are giving me a headache, right? So you're actually taking the headache away for everyone. You're going to still get your percentage, which, by the way, is probably the same percentage commission you're going to make anyway. You net the same percentage commission. You're going to get 1 or 2 percentage points out of 4, 5 maybe. So, and you would have had to pay the salespeople 3 out of 4 or something. So the numbers are the same. It's scalable because you're now selling throughout the region, not just physically Latin America. You're doing it as a SaaS business, but based on performance. So I think it's actually a very smart pivot, one that is very scalable. So you're now no longer just reliant on what's happening in Uruguay plus, I don't know, wherever, ... the markets you're in. But now you don't care, right? They can be in the Caribbean, they can be in Brazil, they can be in Mexico, they can be in the US, like you care, right? It's just, you're just facilitating a transaction to occur between people who want to buy and sell. And you're doing it in a way that you're getting rewarded, and you're focusing on the new home segment, which is the one that at the end of the day, at least half the equation is easier, because developers are a hell of a lot easier to work with than established home sellers who are, the mums and dads of the world who are like up and down in their expectations. So I think this is actually a very good move. And now it's about patience. And I think what you've alluded to there at the end was it's about education. How do I educate the shareholders and the market that stop looking at what we used to do and comparing it today? Understand what we're doing today and realize that what this can be in the future is the hub. Theoretically, the word is theoretically, every new home developer in the world could use this platform to sell some or all, in theory, of their product through. And you just go clip, 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 different percentages based on the developer. And depending how much they're paying you, depends on, how are the range of services that you provide. So I think it's a great business model. So well done.
Thank you. You just nailed it. Obviously, that's why I think you're one of the guys that have most information around classified portals in the world. So you nail it.
And by the way, Ricardo, it comes with old age. And you've done that, you've seen the mistakes. You see when you see something good and it smells good, you know that someone's doing a good job on something.
And you said something. You said a word there, as a service. Our end game is something that we call BaaS, BaaS, broker as a service. So we believe that we want to like that philosophy for brokers. So broker as a service is our end game. So we are going that. The other thing worth mentioning is that today we are cash flow positive. We are EBITDA positive. Yes, the share price, we don't like seeing that in these numbers, but we can run. We can continue to work the company. We are growing organically. We are reinvesting, and we are profitable. So we just want to take some time, and then maybe I think there's a great opportunity of doing some M&A in Latam. I think in a couple of years we could build, hypothetically, you said we could build something really big.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to leave it there, Ricardo. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. As you alluded to there, you're a very busy guy. We will endeavor to make sure that all of your shareholders listen to this podcast, because as you said, it's about education. And yeah, I'm sure we'll see you at a PPW event in the not too distant future.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here with you both guys. So thank you for the invitation.
Ricardo, thank you very much. It's always fantastic to talk to you. I've known you for, I don't know, I've lost how many years, nearly a decade, I guess. And it's very, very interesting to see how InfoCasas has gone from a relatively small part of the overall FTV pie to now they've gone, hey, Ricardo, do you mind running all of Latin America from Encuentra 24 to whatever the one in Chile, Yapo? No, what's it? Yapo?
Yapo.
Yeah, but in Chile. And so, and now you've got all the toys and the great chance to really build this vision. And now, and the only challenge is how you do that in a world where you've got, being on, and this is a good lesson for everyone out there. Not all that glitters is gold. Being listed doesn't equal success. It can be an absolute pain in the backside because you've got shareholders who go, I don't like that result. I don't get that result. Sell. Now, what is it you're doing again? Right? They basically don't have time to stuff around, and they will sell your shares quite quickly. And before you know it, you've lost. I saw the other day it's like 25% of the value in the last week or so, or the last month. So well done for what you're doing within 360 Latam.
Thank you, guys.